Welcome to the Shabby And Man podcast. We are partners, parents, podcasters, broadcasters,
and everything else in between. Hi.
Namaskar, Adab, Sat Sri Akal.
This time I thought I'd go a bit more Mediterranean and say hi.
Mediterranean?
Arrivederci.
Yeah, that's more Mediterranean, I suppose, than hi.
Hola.
Yeah, we've decided to do an episode on a subject which is very close to our heart for a very particular reason. I'm talking about food. We are recording this podcast hours after India's crushing defeat at the Cricket World Cup finals.
What's that got to do with food?
No, since, we didn't bring the World Cup home, we may as well talk about other cups and bowls and plates and memorable meals that we've had.
You mean like a cup of warmth, something comforting?
Since our cup of joy hasn't runneth over, we may as well talk about a cup of warmth, something comforting, yes.
That was a pretty tedious link, if I may say so.
I know, but it was a link nonetheless. Actually, it all started with the fact that you said you read something rather interesting in the papers about how Indian food, Asian food made inroads into London, and you spoke about all these iconic places which even you remember from the...
There was a wonderful article about Euston, about Drummond Street, which is in the heart of central London. You know, if you've got a Monopoly board, Euston is one of the stations, I think. Marylebone, Euston, Charing Cross, and I can't remember the other one.
Park Lane.
It's not a station.
Sorry.
Railway stations.
Oxford Circus.
Okay, let's forget that.
Victoria.
Yeah, maybe it's Victoria.
No idea.
Have you never played Monopoly?
I have. My
How
only
could you
problem,
say Park Lane?
because it's a food episode, my only beef with Monopoly is that it starts on a Monday and it ends on a Friday. That's what I don't like. It goes on forever.
Well, I was reading this article about how iconic it was in the 60s when the first bunch of immigrants kind of came over.
Oh, were you around then in the 60s? Would you remember?
The Desis came over. And so when I went to the 70s as a young kid...
Oh, how young are we talking about? Not that young, I suspect. I was born in 73, by the way, because as the whole world knows, I turned 50 this year. Okay, go on then, carry on. So, in the 60s...
Sorry, band baja leke aao?
No. In the 60s, what happened?
So when these immigrants came over, there were places for them to eat, Asian food, Indian food, Pakistani food. And the hub of it was, in those days, I don't think, like we're now used to Southall and we're used to Wembley. I think it was in central London, that one street. So you had Ambala, which is a huge chain of Indian sweet, Pakistani sweets or Indian sweets, I'm not sure. But
Asian sweet shop. Yeah.
There was Gupta Sweets there.
So you're saying the original Ambala was in Drummond Street?
Yeah. Now it's still there.
Yeah, it's become a chain now, sadly.
And there was also Gupta Sweets, which is a Bengali sweet shop.
Yeah.
I was actually there very recently, and I was chatting to the guy behind the counter. And he was Gujarati. I think it's run by Gujaratis now, I'm not sure. I think the original daughter of the guy who owned it is still there. What else was there? Ravi Shankar is there, the dosa shop.
Yeah.
And there's Ravi Kebabs. So, and there's a lovely a shop which sells spices and whole foods, and like a supermarket. That's still there. So it's really nice. I go there quite often because that's one place which is convenient for me to get to. South or Wembley are quite hard.
I would imagine that specialist shops that sell spices and things like that would have been very popular with Asians who are passing that neighborhood.
Actually,
but now, is it one of those specialist food shops?
Let me explain. I didn't explain it well. That the gist of the story was that how it's dying down now. That earlier generation that used to go there, now they're all over the place. You don't have to go. If you want to get curry patta or something,
you don't have to go to Drummond Street.
You can just go to your local supermarket downstairs, Drummond Corner.
Yeah.
And so that place, the establishment, is not what it used to be now.
Yes.
It's dwindling.
Yeah, in fact, that's something I've spoken about a lot, In fact, it is one of the things that I dislike about a British high street, and I can randomly pick virtually any high street, because now everything is available everywhere. For convenience, that ticks a very big box, I know. But exactly as you're saying, those neighborhoods which were known for certain kinds of cuisine, for certain, kind of restaurants and shops where people would actually spend the whole day there.
It's got its plus and minus.
Samosa, pakode, jalebi, chaat, khana hai to South Hall chalo. Now that's no longer the case. There are enough Indian shops up and down the city where you get a lot of that. also, it has to be said.
No, but if you want, people still make a beeline for Southall and Wembley.
Yeah, because I think they're more affordable. Because a lot of these shops and restaurants in central London would give you exactly the same thing, but only because it is in a certain postcode or plated a certain way and given a little spin, maybe classified as fusion cuisine, you'd be paying extortionate prices for a plate of chaat,
For
right?
those of us who are listening to us outside London,
Yes.
I think we should explain a little bit that Southall is very Punjabi. Wembley
Used to be.
Wembley is Gujarati.
Yeah.
Tooting is quite Tamil and Sri Lankan.
Yeah.
Ilford and all is quite Pakistani.
Yes.
So they're little sectors, basically.
Pockets.
And we're talking about London.
Yeah. But even that, I think, is a changing.
You went recently to Birmingham to Soho Road.
I did.
That is
the hub.
That is hub of the food street, isn't it?
That is the Asian hub. No, not just food, even clothes, wedding clothes, food, anything Asian. I think Soho Road is where everybody in Birmingham goes to buy this stuff.
I'm sure someone will write in and tell me, where's the Curry Mile? Is it in Birmingham or Manchester?
I have no idea.
I'm so bad at these things.
Yeah, I have no idea. But I again feel that you're talking about things that possibly were true in the 60s, 70s, 80s. But now, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years later, it is quite a cosmopolitan mix, and especially in London.
That's what I'm saying, that there are the pros and the cons. It's also good that things are standardized. I don't know if I'm very happy about the fact that, every high street will have a dishoom or a masala zone in London.
Yeah.
So there are lots of Indian restaurants people can go to.
Yeah. Also, I feel that the good thing is that things that used to be available only in specific shops or things that only Asians were using have now become so commonplace, not just in Asian food, but even in Mediterranean food. Who knew that things like za'atar and, sumac, all of these things which tahini, otolenghi and all use extensively in their cooking. These are everyday words. These are things that we like to throw in when we're making an omelette, when we're making a Spanish omelette, when you want to spice up your sabzi a little differently. And things like exactly curry patta, dhania, garam masala, chaat masala, chana masala, these are readily available and people are not afraid to use it.
Well, if you're putting tahini in my omelette, remind me.
No, tahini.
Remind me to be off that day.
No, I haven't put tahini in anybody's omelette. But you know what I'm trying to say. These have become spices that have been demystified by the likes of Otolenghi and Jamie Oliver and everybody actually who readily,
And all the supermarkets here have Asian aisle.
Yeah.
Our one is not that big, unfortunately.
Yes.
But at least there is one there.
Yeah.
You can get your Haldirams and your Co-Fresh and whatever the makes are.
Yeah.
And get your packet of crisps.
And even if you can't go to a restaurant and get yourself a plate of chaat, you can get those boxes that give you all the various elements where you can put the chaat together at home. They'll give you a golgappa in a plastic box. Go and get your own. Make your own nimbu pani.
That actually reminds me. We were talking about Euston Drummond Street.
Yeah.
One of the oldest establishments there was actually a Bhel Puri house. I think it's still there. Yeah. You must go one. I sometimes go there and have a masala chai.
Yeah.
And aloo bundi or a samosa.
Aloo bonda.
Aloo bonda.
Yeah.
It's a Bengali shop, by the way, I go to.
Which is no longer a Bengali shop. Gupta's actually used to specialize in especially Bengali shandesh, rasgulla, chom, and as your parents say that it was perhaps the most popular Bengali sweet shop in central London back then. But now, of course, as you're saying, it sells everything, virtually everything. But growing up, even I can think of so many places that are completely intertwined with my childhood memories. And food is always, as we say, is so much more than, a memorable meal is so much more than just a meal.
Correct, because that was just something about London I wanted to mention because I read about it. But growing up in Delhi, meeting you in Delhi and living in Delhi, you and me had our little haunts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Nirula's we always talk about. Nirula's Rendezvous is a place where we always went and did our crossword after we just finished doing weekend breakfast on national radio.
I've heard that Nirula's is no longer there.
It is no longer there, which is very sad.
But it was famous for its hot chocolate fudge in those days.
Yeah, and the breakfast at Rendezvous was actually amazing.
Yeah, Rendezvous was the posher restaurant inside it.
Upstairs. The ice cream counter was downstairs and this was the nicer restaurant upstairs. So we really bonded over food. We went to, you have your own haunts as well, but together we've been to, whether it was Kareem's Kati Kebab, whether it was Colonel Kebabs in Def Call.
Yeah, because I used to live.
What is Akashaka? What was the name of the Chinese restaurant in Defence Colony? The name completely escapes me. If there's anybody listening to us from Delhi, India, if you have any memories at all of Defence Colony, when it was the place in South Delhi to go and hang out.
And for those who can't remember, just to jaunt your memory, it was right next to Sagar.
Yes.
Which is where, on many occasions, we'd bump into...
Who?
Mrs. Shah Rukh Khan.
Oh, yes, we did. And Sagar is again a place which is remembered for many, many different reasons. A, the food. B, for its obsession with cleanliness, to the point that if you just happen to drop a crumb, then there'd be somebody standing with a dustpan and brush would immediately kind of, clean it from the floor, even before you'd had the next morsel. So Sagar, of course, has many, many fond memories for many people. But when I was growing up in South Delhi, whether it was Lajpat Nagar or later Saket, then Hudko Place, going for a Chinese meal was the ultimate celebration for all of us. So whether it was Changwa, whether it was Akashaka later in South Extension, whether it was Om Da Dhaba, which had such humble roots.
First of all, Om Da Dhaba is not Chinese.
No, it's not Chinese.
And secondly, when you say the word Chinese...
Yeah, Indo-Chinese.
Yeah, the food in India is not really Chinese.
No, but I love it.
No, it's very tasty.
Yes.
With all its... What is that chemical? MRF?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Not an MRF. That's a cricket bat you're thinking of.
Yeah, that's a tire.
Yes, that's a tire.
Whatever that chemical is, it's...
Yeah. GMO.
I don't know. Indo-Chinese food is laden with it.
Yeah.
Which makes it very, very tasty.
MSG. Monosodium glutamate or something like that. MSG. So, Indo-Chinese, yes. But yeah, Om is not Chinese. Of course, it's absolutely Thet Punjabi food. But I remember whether it was my dad getting chole puri breakfast in the morning on weekends from Om Da Dhaba. Later, that's where you went for your butter chicken, your kebab, your naan, your rumali roti, your biryanis. Om was just absolutely... Dee's biryani for us later, remember? Dee's biryani was absolutely iconic.
Which was proper dum biryani.
Because they'd send it in an earthen pot, which would be sealed by dough, and you would actually be opening it, and that's why they charge premium prices. Also, growing up, I have to mention anyone who's grown up in the Saket of the 80s, 90s, Bajaj Sweets in J Block Market, absolutely iconic. It was a sweet shop in the front, and it had a restaurant at the back, which is where you had the best chole bhaturas.
Oh, I'm sorry, I used to have pastries at Wenger's.
Oh, please, even we are used to pastry at Wenger's. The rum balls in Wenger's. Chocolate wheel later in Jor Bagh. I remember that was a big favorite with my dad. He would get boxes and boxes of assorted pastries and things like that. Especially over Christmas, they made some fantastic stuff. So I mean, we
know Delhi food in terms of kebabs and all is the ultimate.
Yeah,
but
but you know what? That's because we only know Delhi. People in Lucknow would say we beg to differ. That's not really.
No. That's where I was actually going with this. That. We know that the food in Delhi is the ultimate, but we also know that that place in Connaught Place, which used to do kati kebabs.
Yeah.
I forgot what it's called. What's it called? Nizam's. That place was based on a place in Calcutta.
Could well be.
Which is where the original kati kebab came from.
Yeah. And a lot of these dishes actually started out as street food staples, and later they were became so popular that they invariably appeared on every food menu.
And in my mind, there is still nothing better than a double egg mutton roll.
Oh God.
That's just... It's sublime. It's on a different level.
What time of the day would you have it? For breakfast, lunch, dinner, any time? Is it after you've had one too many to drink and on your way home you'd stop by and have something?
No,
what is that?
Those are kebabs you have on your car bonnet in Def Hall. This is the place where you go and you sit with the pankha.
My God. We also went to Cozy Restaurant, which was a favorite of ours. I think it was
Cozy is not a rated restaurant.
At all.
It was a tiny restaurant.
Yeah, but we loved it.
We loved it because there was a recording studio opposite it. Remember?
Yeah, so we'd do our voiceovers and do our recordings there, and we'd just drive around the corner. Also in Delhi, even though we're talking about 20 years ago, parking now is a nightmare. But this was one of the restaurants where parking was very easy. And the 2-3 standard dishes that we ordered were absolutely mouth-watering. We loved it. So they would see us coming and virtually start preparing our order kind of thing.
I just remember that studio, the recording studio, owned by a good friend of yours.
Yes.
Who is probably the most famous face on reading the news in the 80s and 90s.
Yes, absolutely. Another place that I must mention, again for Delhiites, South Delhiites in particular, if you're familiar with South Extension Market, if you've been there in the 70s, 80s, 90s, then you absolutely must have had bhel puri from that bhel puri wale bhaiya in part 2, which was round the corner from Mehra Sons and, all these sari shops. And I believe that stall still exists, and I believe he's upgraded to like a very posh.
I thought when you think of Indian sweets, you think of Bengali market.
You do, Bengali market and Nathus, but then again, I'm talking specifically of neighborhoods where I grew up. Where we lived.
These are your memories.
My memories. Even after we got married, we stayed pretty much in South Delhi. We did stay in Actually, central Delhi.
Actually, it's so weird that we lived in Lajpat Nagar.
Yeah.
And people used to come from far and wide to have chole bhature and lassi on a Sunday morning.
Yeah, paneer pakode. Also, the strange thing is now, again, cuisine from all over the world is virtually available all over the place, so it doesn't sound like such a big deal. But one of the best place in South Delhi back then in the 90s, early noughties, to go and have momos was Lajpat Nagar. In the middle of the market, there was a man who would have a stall, and he would do these momos. And momos, again, for those who don't know, are dumplings which are very popular, made in the northeast and Nepal, northeast, in hilly places.
They're from Nepal and Tibet because having spent many years in Nepal, they're still the best ones there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get these chicken momos, beef momos, vegetable momos, and they're essentially steamed dumplings. And you'd have them with chili sauce or whatever it is.
And in Nepal, you also get them with broth.
Yeah, and sometimes they're in a broth, sometimes they're deep fried as well. Many people like to have deep fried momos as well. So, are there any particular places that you remember for dessert? I know we spoke about Wenger's, we spoke about all these pastry shops. But I'm just trying to think. Is there a place? A lot of people say that, gajar ka halwa from here, rabdi and malai from here and there is also kind of very popular.
No, I'd go at the other end of Connaught Place. There was Kake Ka Dhaba.
Kake Ka Dhaba, yeah.
I would have butter chicken there and then we'd have a pan next door. We were most happy.
Actually, that's a very interesting thing. Any absolutely sublime pan places that you can remember where you absolutely had to go and have a pan? I think Delhi, being Delhi, has virtually every street corner.
Every street corner had something.
Every neighborhood.
I don't like those showy ones which are dipped in chocolate or beer.
And I've got too much silver work on it.
I like a plain sada pan. Anyway, where are we going from here? What I was trying to say was that nowadays in this country, it's amazing as well that we've got. You said it's sad in a way that. Everything's become homogenized. Everything's the same. But I think these street food markets are wonderful. I'm thinking of Curb in Camden.
There's a fantastic one that we went to where a church has been turned into a food
just
market.
In Mayfair, that is.
In Mayfair.
But what I like about these places is that now you can just Seven Dials as well in Covent Garden. You can taste Indian food, Peruvian food, which is very hot at the moment. Mexican food, Vietnamese, whatever. So you can these street stalls. I think have changed the landscape. I love them.
Okay, food trucks. That's a very American concept, right? Food trucks are only available. I think you only get to see them in East London where you have enough space.
Food trucks is just the American way of saying street food. Street food. Street stalls.
So you read a lot about food. You sample a lot of food. You have a lot of food memories. What do you think is the hottest cuisine right now? Because sometimes I know, as you like to say, that Indian food is forever popular. You can never go wrong with Vietnamese or one of these Mediterranean. I think Mediterranean food is big now, isn't it?
The most popular foodie destinations are still probably Portugal. And maybe Lima in Peru. These places people really like to go there and taste.
For the street food, you're saying?
Just to taste the food of that culture.
I think Mediterranean food has taken off in a big way only because people have realized how healthy it is, especially those who have a tendency to cut down on their meat and have a lot of... Are you
talking about Mediterranean food as in Greek food and salads and all? That's been around for 20 years.
No, I know, but suddenly it has been put on the map in the sense that virtually everybody is making salad, things, again, like we said, roasted vegetables, halloumi, tahini, all these things which were...
You went this week to a rather posh vegetarian, very highly rated Indian restaurant, which was vegetarian, wasn't it? Is it good? I mean, I'm not a vegetarian, so I don't know.
I love my vegetarian
food. If someone tells me, yele, plate of pumpkin squash, I don't know if I'd be happy or sad.
No, I love vegetarian food, and truth be told, it was really good. But I thought the prices were absolutely extortionist. And that's the only reason where I feel that being an Indian, if I am asked to pay a king's ransom for a curry that I could easily make at home.
Something you can make at home, of course.
Then it's not going to sit well with me. That's exactly what it is. But I can completely appreciate those who may not know how to make Indian food or haven't had it often.
But आपने गोरे दोस्तों के साथ
गोरे दोस्तों के साथ गए थे. Happy to kind of, kind of go and sample what there is to what people are actually eating and drinking and what kind of cuisine is popular right now. And there are some curries which are standard. You can't go wrong with a curry which has a coconut sauce or a curry which has, aubergine I think is becoming the star vegetable now in any cuisine. And how many different ways हम लोग तो बनाते हैं, भरता भी बनाते हैं, aubergine fry भी बनाते हैं, aubergine की सब्जी भी बनाते हैं, ग्रिल भी बनाते हैं, मुसाका भी खाते हैं. हम लोगों के लिए उतनी बड़ी बात नहीं है, but it's to see how many different ways you can. The one place that I haven't been to and I would like to go and sample is Chourangi, which is claims to be authentic Bengali food. Again, it's in a hotel, so I can't imagine it being very cheap. But nonetheless, if it is actually dishing up something,
it's in a hotel just behind Marble Arch,
brings you
I might have been there.
Yeah, if it brings you kind of a taste of your childhood. And if it is authentic food, then I'm sure.
Do you remember when we just got married in Delhi? There was a place called Delhi Hut.
Yes, Hut.
Delhi Hut.
Yeah.
Was it not named after Hut?
No, Hut means bazaar in Shuddh Hindi.
I've always called it Delhi Hut.
No, like H-A-A-T.
There's me thinking Pizza Hut, Delhi Hut.
It's not that. It's Hut.
Well, it was a little place where you could sample food from
different. Not little, really.
It was okay. It was. I'm talking about the food bit.
Oh, the food court.
It had lots of other stuff.
Yeah, it had textile.
Selling wares from different regions of India.
Yeah.
But like a cottage emporium kind of thing.
Yes.
But the food bit, you could. That's the first time I probably tasted food from different places. Orissa.
Yeah.
It was very good.
Yeah.
And that also reminds me, my first fusion thing was somewhere in Delhi. There was a South Indian restaurant which had a sign on the window saying chicken dosa. I never heard of these sort of things. So for me, dosa was always aloo,
masala or plain.
Yeah. So the first time there, I tasted chicken dosa.
Yeah.
Now, of course, it's probably a very standard thing.
Yeah. Again, we are not very adventurous when it comes to South Indian food, but I think that's something that South Indians feel extremely annoyed about all the time. That, if you were to ask anyone, not just non-Indians, but even Indians, if you were to ask them to name 5 South Indian dishes, many would struggle after idli, dosa, sambar, uttapam, upma. That's about it, right? And they say that there's so much more to South Indian food. Every region, whether it is Kerala, whether it is Chettinad, whether it is Karnataka, Andhra, every region has its own spices, has its own curries and vegetables.
Brought back memories. Chettinad is
very spicy.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's Andhra food.
It's so hot.
Andhra food is very, very spicy. In fact, my mum was telling me that because my parents live in South India, not in Andhra Pradesh, they live in Karnataka, but Andhra Pradesh is right next to them. Mum was saying that, they had some friends visiting and the friends came with their grandchildren and the granddaughter was no more than 4 or 5 years old and the grandmother was giving her so much food which was very spicy, and my mom said I was really shocked, and she said no, this is how she'll get used to it. She'll refuse it once, twice, 3 times. For the 4th time she'll love the taste of it. That's how it. By the time they're 7, 8, 9, they're having 4, 5, 6 chilies in every dish.
When I used to go to my South Indian friend's house for lunch and
I know what's coming now.
He used to make something.
Is it the gunpowder plot?
Yeah, he used to make something called gunpowder.
Yes, and you would mix that with oil and dip your idli in it and have
Correct.
it. And gunpowder, the predominant ingredient in a gunpowder is red chili.
Is it?
Yeah, it's crushed red chilies with a lot of other things. Chana dal also, I believe. So all of that in a certain proportion.
I remember it was quite tasty.
In a certain proportion. Hot. Yeah. I feel that other than travel, the best way to discover any part of the world is through cuisine. Literature can wait, music can wait, culture can wait. But the easiest and the most pleasant way of discovering what a particular geographic region and its culture is all about would be by sampling their food.
Well, we took the easy, lazy way out of this podcast. We're just talking about Indian food, which we're accustomed to.
No, food that means something to us.
If you had to choose some other type of food, I'm not talking about English food or Indian food.
Yeah.
What would your
I
preference
would
be?
easily say Mediterranean. Because I can see now, I've always been fond of vegetarian food. Even when it comes to Indian food, there are a handful of non-veg dishes which I feel I absolutely have to eat. Whether it's a lamb or whether it's a certain kind of chicken or, fish, but I can easily give up non-vegetarian food because I love vegetarian. And I think if you're talking about food that we have not grown up with and we are not familiar with, I would gravitate to Mediterranean because I absolutely love.
So you like all the tofu and
I love the halloumi, the tofu, the what are those that we use in making kadhi chawal?
koftas.
Yeah, what are they called? Oh my God.
I call them kofta. What are they called? Falafels.
Falafels, thank you. I absolutely love, because chickpea is a big part of their cuisine. Hummus. I love tahini, I love hummus, I love grilled vegetables. They do a lot of grilled peppers. There's a lot of olive oil in their cooking. There's a lot of salads, Even if they have meat and fish, it's normally grilled. There's a lot of breads. I love their 50,000 types of breads, which you just dipping oil. I love it. I would say my next favorite. What would you say? Is it Chinese? Is it Italian? Not Chinese. Would it be Italian?
For me?
Would it be Don't say French, because I have done gastronomy.
Because I have done gastronomy, but it's not my favorite. My favorite is, like you, the kebabs. Sorry, not the kebabs. The bread, the oil, all that stuff.
Yeah.
With the kebabs. I like Turkish food.
You like Turkish, yeah.
Or Lebanese food.
Yeah. Even I would be happy with Turkish or Lebanese, but the vegetarian end of the Turkish-Lebanese menu. And when it comes to sweet dish, what would be your ultimate? Are you into cakes? Are you into puddings? Are you into ice creams? Are you into sorbets? Are you into...
No, I'm not really.
Chocolates?
Sorbet would be nice. But I'm not really into anything. Okay, Indian wise.
एक प्लेट रसमलाई आपके सामने कोई रख दे 2 मिनट में खत्म हो जाती है.
वो दूसरी बात है.
I opened a tin of rasgullas. I had 2 thinking that I had the other 8 to finish over the next 5 days. The next day there was only the rasa left in the fridge.
I know. I didn't throw it away because I thought maybe you could
I'd use it in something.
Yeah.
No, that's not my question. My question is, where did the other 8 go? In one sitting you finished it. Then you say, I don't really have a sweet tooth. Considering we only live with one son now who is absolutely averse to sweet dish, especially Indian, it could only be you.
पूरी कहानी सुना दे. रसगुल्ले भी छोटे-छोटे थे.
Oh please, they weren't exactly mini, they were medium sized. But anyway, gajar ka halwa is something I absolutely love. But if it's hot and if it has a dollop of ice cream with it, preferably Madagascan vanilla ice cream. But there you go.
Very fussy you are.
I am fussy. Well, that's it. Are you a fussy eater? What kind of cuisine interests you? What is it that you've sampled lately that you would like to tell us about? Or a dish from your childhood that always takes you home.
And how are they going to tell us?
Well, we are on social media, Shabby and Man podcast. We are on the various platforms. And you know what they say. Where there's a will, there's a way. You'll find a way of letting us know, I'm sure. Until the next podcast, and we are rapidly nearing the end of the year, which means we shall soon be talking about Christmas and Christmas-related things. And our standard...
Christmas has started in a way. Have you seen? Christmas trees are up.
Yeah.
Lights have gone up on high streets.
I'm not feeling Christmassy at all, yet.
Abhi mahina hai.
But so we'll be talking about all of that, and our standard this time of year, we'll also be talking about list of resolutions, what you did, what you didn't do, what you would like to do, what worked for you, what didn't. I think it's time to say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.